Hello everyone and thank you all. It is an honor to be able to participate, and I am here as a member of a French non-profit association called CapGame. And for us, it is a pleasure to speak up, especially after having co-organized with IGDA and the CNAM the first European edition of the Game Accessibility Conference that took place in Paris in 2018. CapGame is run by volunteers and was created in 2013. We have with us about 1,000 members with very different profiles. Players with or without disabilities, individuals, families, professionals, activists, and many more. By gathering people with different points of view, sensibilities, profiles, and skills, this organization allows us to have a rather complete vision of all the subjects regarding accessibility and video games. Since 2017, we address the question of video games accessibility through each of our 5 poles, all different but complementary. To our knowledge, it is quite rare to find such compilation in the accessibility landscape. Let's take a look. The solution pole is here to identify software and hardware that will improve the overall accessibility for video game and for players, as well as for retailers and distributors. In order to do so, we conceive, write and make available various educational sheets. This pole is here to enhance the further popularization of accessibility, gives tutorials and support peer helping action to promote the autonomy of people. With the testing pole, Stéphane organized workshops in social healthcare institutions to bring games in this community in order to share information to every other players with and without disability about games and game experiences. This information were hard to find back in time, and it came from experience on field to answered needs. Why buy a €60 game if you can't play at it? The consulting polls helps to raise awareness, upgrade people skills, gives trainings and supports a video games development team, publishers and other actors of the video game industry to improve the accessibility of their production. We also give training and support professionals in the medical and social sector to promote the existence and the use of video games in their structures for patients and residents with disabilities. The research pole helps us when we are stuck in particular situation facing accessibility issues in gaming. Then we initiate brainstorming sessions and studies. The aim is to discuss, motivate and prompt legitimate actors who are usually industrials to adopt an accessibility approach. And last but not least, the Esport pole. Because video games are for everyone, we want everyone to be able to participate in the competitive aspect of it. To do so, we work with many actors, from institutions, other associations, politics, to answer this question. What should the accessibility or inclusive esport be like? And then, how do we get there? Well, we are conducting experiments, such as the inclusive esport tournament that we will discuss in more detail later in this presentation. We weren't always organized like this. At the beginning were CapGame and Game Lover, 2 independent non-profit associations that have blossomed in 2013 without knowing anything about each other. First, CapGame. We were there to connect the information with the field to players. CapGame's core team was forged by the meeting of Jérôme, Couchat and Guillaume. 2 observations motivated its creation. First, persons with disability are avoiding video games because of their disabilities, saying it's not for me even before trying it. This public is still hard to reach. Then, and for those who would like to play, they lack information and solutions because they weren't accessible to them from shops and online back in the day. Then these 3 musketeers had set up 2 actions. They made an inventory of useful hardware and software for game accessibility, written and published articles and guides and videos on their website. They also created a Facebook community in order to gather gamers and for them to share their best practices. In addition to our online activity, we are involved in a great numbers of events. Since 2013, we reach out to the public and we present CapGame's booths at several video game events and exhibits accessibility setups to various audiences. Yet, our efforts to reach the industry failed until 2017. For game lover, we start from the field and player in order to bring games to them and to answer to their question. Since 2011, Stefan has been accompanying adult residents and has been asked to help them as those who were unable to play. At the same time, in 2013, Stefan created Game Lovers with and for his residents. Game Lover is above all a blog whose first goal is to help players to make an informed choice about games they choose to buy due to lack of information and the practice they will have to adapt. This idea flowered of gathering volunteer disabled players around the game and has from his position observing the session and their struggles. The first test emerged, as did the first article on Game Lovers blog. However, the first article were more oriented towards standard video game review article than playtest reviews. And at the same time, it was one of the only kind of French resources available online. And we seek no competition. It makes more sense to gather all of our action. So in 2017, it was a big year for all of us. Our society started to talk more about persons with disabilities. At the same time, we all heard about the Xbox accessibility controller to come the year after. The CVAA becomes real, and Game Lovers met CapGame, becoming our first tree branch with the testing poll. It is from these conversions that more branches grew, as presented to you today. Since 2017, our engagement had led us to bigger and bigger projects, because if we want to reach the industry and work with it, we have to do more and we have to be in it all together. We started by launching #AllGamers. During the International Day of Persons with Disability in 2017, with CapGame, Xbox France and the CNAM, a French Grande École, we gathered and took action focused on the overall accessibility and the video game accessibility. We organized press conferences, recorded videos to be broadcast on social networks during all the week, and we had a public conference at the CNAM with experts and players with disability, and we had French Sign Language and live transcription. Then CapGame co-organized the first game accessibility conference in Europe, also at the CNAM, and it was awesome to see so many of you there and to be able to have this kind of setup. We had French Sign Language on the right and live transcription, ASL in the middle and live transcription on the left, audiophonic translation from English to French with headphones disposable at the entrance, and invited speaker in the middle with this slide. 2017 was also our first invitation as exhibitor at the Paris Game Week. It was the first time in 8 years that that an accessibility booth was held at this event. And from a little booth, we got a huge visibility and many solicitations from everywhere. People, structures, politics, such as Secretary of State of the Prime Minister and some deputies, industrials, everyone. And that's it, our big start. Our tree grew out of the wall, and yet we still have much more to do, and we launch more projects. We are going to show you with some details, 3 of them that are major to us right now. First, the follow-up with the Paris Games Week. As Paris Games Week is big, so are we, and it's time for us to celebrate and to gather. It's done during 5 days every end of the year, before the COVID situation was a thing. It's more than 370,000 visitors for 80,000 square meters. One of the biggest events worldwide, bigger than E3. It is then a very expected moment for everyone, especially the French video game industry, to show off, to meet people, try out games, and to go to conferences. One of the main organizer of this event is the CEL, a French organization created in 1995 that promotes the interest of video game publishers. Since 2017 and all the good vibes we gave from our first appearance, they gave us carte blanche in 2019 to create a full area dedicated to accessibility at the Paris Games Week. We call it Play as you are, jouez comme vous êtes. Huge, more than 100 square meters. In order to grow that new branch out of our tree, we had to prepare and recruit a special staff. We bet to get on site both deaf and hearing animators and interpreters too. We wanted all of them to be able to welcome everyone there, so we trained them, and the public reacted more than well and welcomed the initiative. We also had to invite these other structures and accessibility actors to come and take place and to raise awareness. So as I said, we started little and we grew more and more each year. In 2019, we were 6 exhibitors with 2 Fab Labs, a studio, other structures and association. We wanted to bet big, and our bet went further. We work with Paris Games Week organizer to improve the global quality of the entrance of this event. We might have restructured a lot of things, such as flows, passages, stairs, signs, all the things about person accessibility and movement on site. Scenes and animation, we had to have interpreters on stage for big shows and live transcription. We also made a general accessible communication. So we created a map in Braille, videos such as this one with live transcription, website, French sign languages, and many things. We also ask for dedicated cashier to persons with disability with reception in French Sign Language available, half price ticket to persons with disability, free tickets to the escort, wheelchairs, many things. And last but not least, a VIP tour to small group of persons with disability and thematic tours and 1 soundproof rooms. Yeah. And all of this actually ran smooth with big smiles and cheerful encouragements. On our area, and as usual in other events, we provide sensibilization to all kinds of publics, industrial to the overall population. We also provide an accompaniment and answer to all kinds of questions players coming to see us had about their playing experience and difficulties. And we also exchange cute human interaction. On the third pictures, we can see Marshall who is teaching Xbox security staff to say hello in French Sign Language. From now on, we are talking about how we spread our model. Since 2017, Stefan joined us. The testing network has grown too, and the accessibility aspect was added to its accessibility review. What he does has 2 meanings. Thinking about how to bring games into structures, which is a huge question itself, and how giving useful information to other players with and without difficulties. During playtime moments and with his residents, Stefan conducts an evaluation of the accessibility of a game as an activity itself, and this on various kinds of games. And those willing to participate afterward can co-write and publish articles on the Game Lovers blog. And as we train people and structures to accompany their players, we also wish to create new vocation from this testing workshop and encourage the participation in the writing of this article. So the goal here is to develop the expertise of players with disability to work with the video game industry, to encourage autonomy, and for them to finally have fun playing at games. So in order to do so, 2 years ago, we engaged for 2 years in a partnership with UNAPI to diffuse our testing and training model through the network. We made a call in France and gathered on voluntary basis directors of all social healthcare institutions for a training day in Paris. We discussed about our methodology and how to encourage safe video game practices for their residents with an accessibility evaluation of their activity. 13 responded, and in total 6 out of 13 are about to be operational. Currently, 4 already are, 2 are in progress, and the COVID situation are slowing down everything, as you know. All 4 of them are committed beyond the simple practices, and should also produce content for our blog. So UNAPI, I mentioned just before, is a leading French federation of associations created in 1960, representing and defending the interests of persons with intellectual disabilities and their families. It's recognized as a public utility, and UNAPI is local, up North France. It's a movement that brings together plus 550 associations which manage a large numbers of medical and social establishments and services. So, and from them, politically, we are working to involve other national structures to join us in a network of players and to spread knowledge. And we are looking for other associations that face other difficulty to work with too. So CapGame Arena is another one big project we have, because we have to think about esport and how players with disability can also be part of it and what problem they might face. Our first inclusive tournament initiative took place in 2018, and as we know, we couldn't find an equivalent in the press as well as in publication. It was probably a real world first to offer inclusive competition, and it was done on the game PES 2018 and FIFA 2018. During Paris Games Week 2019, it was a unique occasion to put forward players with disability. With CapGame, we organized the CapGame Arena, nearly 40 participants. They were invited to play the grand finals, PES, Street Fighter V and Forza on stage on the Esport pavilion. Everyone could see it. It was a huge success. And in order to do so, we tested different pair combination. Pair of person with and without disability, pair of person with disability versus pair of person without disability, 1v1, 2v2. We still have many more to try to adapt, other games to experiment as well. So this project has raised many questions we still discuss with many and some other structures such as France Esport. How do we set up this? Are we things to think about, to create, to adapt? What would be the authorized materials? We have to think about regulation and rules to have. Should we mix people or not? And what about commentators, cast and stream, and mixity? All those experimentation and question leads us to our last point. This is one of our latest news and action. We are working with the French Esport Federation, which is the only one existing in France, and they wonder about the relevance of getting involved in esports. We had to see if their members were interested, and from then, position ourselves politically and define strategies. The whole COVID situation allowed us to launch the first esport tournament during the first French lockdown on Trackmania and PES 2019. As we managed to stream hits, we also tried unique things. We had a cast composed with a deaf host, a hearing host, and a French Sign Language interpreter. What was unique is not having an interpreter to work one way from hearing host to deaf people, but to facilitate the communication between both hosts, talking in their own native languages with their own culture and public. It was full inclusive work there with full accessibility on the stream. And the real challenge was obviously to be able to recreate the same stream quality as others. So we had to work hard with production team, technical team, sponsor as well. And also it was a total exploratory project. We had great results and good comment from participants. Above all, no prior knowledge of this kind of process of the visibilization and valorization of the deaf community in such position. This gives us great hopes and will bring more opportunity to them. From CapGame, Anthony did benefit from this visibility and recognition. He is becoming one of the French deaf esport ambassadors. This also pushes us to discuss language overall. There is language complexity by people who sign. By region, countries, there is no one way to sing the same word. So we think about adding difficulty when a language has also to juggle between two or more different languages, such as deaf language, French, and English at the same time. So for the first time, it seems like we discussed standard sign to talk, to use about during video game streams, and also to be able to talk about games titles. It is really hard to spell and explain Cyberpunk 77, so it will be more than likely necessary to create a special sign rather than spelling it every time. So even if we encourage this initiative, this will always be the deaf community to embrace it and make it its own. For us, hearing people, this means it's possible to rethink the work of the interpreter, who is definitely not the only legitimate interlocutor to help with communication. And as usual, it's only a matter of working together. So what's next? With CapGame, we'll all been working together to make video game more accessible. So as we all have a message to share. I, as a CapGame representative and game user researcher, I focus on on cognitive accessibility, and I joined them to work on neurodiversity topics and mental health awareness in video games and in our industry. So what's yours? We hope our presentation will inspire and gather people worldwide to join us, not only as CapGame, even if we'd love to exchange good practices and all, but anyone from outside to grow out of this accessibility world and build up something together, because we believe in co-design and to learn from those who need most. We'd like to thank you all for your attention, and also our supporters and friends such as the Cell, Xbox, and the CNAM, and also IGDA and the Game Accessibility Conference for inviting us today. Thank you and bye.